Welcome back, one and all, to the F1 2015 Pro Season Series here on BoxBoxBoxGaming. My name is, of course, Justin, and today we're in Shanghai for the practice and qualifying sessions ahead of the Chinese Grand Prix. Last time out, we scored our first points in Bahrain with a 7th place finish, but that was after starting 3rd on the grid. Here in China, we'll be looking to continue that trend of qualifying nice and high up the order, but hoping to improve our early race pace and avoid dropping down the order in the opening laps. Taking a quick look now at the drivers' standings, Nico Rosberg currently leading Lewis Hamilton 68 to 61 points. Nico Rosberg with 2 wins and a 2nd place finish. Lewis Hamilton with 2 2nd place finishes and a win. Sebastian Vettel in 3rd position with 37 points. He's followed very closely by Valtteri Bottas with 35 points. He's followed by his teammate Felipe Massa with 29. Our teammate Kimi Räikkönen currently in 7th position with 22 points. And we have now scored, and we're on the board with the 6 points that we earned in Bahrain thanks to that 7th place finish. And having another quick look at the constructors' standings, Mercedes-AMG Petronas currently sitting on 129 out of a maximum possible 129 points. So they're at a 100% point scoring rate so far, 43 points in all 3 races. Infinity Red Bull Racing currently in 2nd place with 65 points, but Williams just 1 point behind them, and then quite a large gap, a 36-point gap back down to Ferrari, and then another quite large gap, 17 points down to McLaren Mercedes in 5th position.
Good morning, and I hope you're as excited as we are for today's practice session here at the Shanghai International Circuit. This 5.45 kilometer track provides both low-speed cornering and a long high-speed straight, a combination that will challenge even the most experienced driver. This is a popular location for many of the teams. The circuit is extremely demanding for both the drivers and the cars, and that makes it a very exciting place to race.
It's certainly a track that's liked by the drivers, providing a good set of challenges when racing. It has 2 long straights that allow for great overtaking opportunities and a very complex 360-degree right-hand corner combination just after the start-finish line. It's a circuit that really has a bit of everything.
Shanghai has produced some very memorable races in the past, in particular the 2007 championship battle, where many would say Lewis Hamilton lost the championship right here.
Well, he stayed out too long on a set of warm tyres and then got stuck in the gravel trap when he came into the pits. It was surely one of the most pivotal races that season, and one that will be remembered for a long time to come.
So that was the introduction, courtesy of Anthony Davidson and David Croft. And they were just talking a little bit. I'd just like to point out, if you look at turn 1 and turn 2, that is not a 360-degree corner. That's maybe a 300-degree corner at most. And I think that's even being a little bit generous. Maybe 310 degrees at the absolute most. I really don't think it's more than 315 degrees. But obviously, that's a very long corner, longer than most corners that you will see on a Formula 1 circuit. Possibly the largest angle for a corner in the entire of the F1 circuit history. In fact, I'm not sure there is one that even really compares. So, excuse me, we're having a look now at the setup. So I am definitely going to be going for a low downforce setup, which I've selected there, and then I'm going to be doing some customizing, taking down to 1-1 wings. I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting. I like to have a low setting on the on-throttle adjustment, and I've decided to go with a high setting for the off-throttle adjustment, which will hopefully give me better turn-in at the corner exit and better stability, or excuse me, at the corner entry, and better rear-end stability at the corner exit is really what I'm looking for here. I never have problems with oversteer into a corner. So now you can see I'm using very soft suspension here, and that is because the corners are so long around this circuit. You want a stiff suspension for changes of direction, but you want a soft suspension for long corners. So like the Maggots-Beckett section, you would want stiff suspension because of the high-speed changes of direction, going left, right, all that kind of stuff. But here in Shanghai, you're really just holding the wheel for a long period of time. And also right there, you can see I was just staring at the ballast thinking about what I wanted, and I was sort of thinking about the various corners, and I came to the conclusion that I went ahead and wanted to set the ballast forward for this race. And you can see I'm spelling China in the proper British way, spelling it China. And we're going to go out on circuit. You can see there are actually some droplets falling off of a...
Try to take it easy for a couple of laps.
Thank you, Jeff. I will take it easy for a couple of laps, and for the main reason for that being because it's actually raining right now, or it recently stopped raining. As I mentioned, drops coming down at the garage entrance. Sorry, I will never say garage. I can't do it. It's always going to be a garage. I'm too American in that way. But here we are heading out on track on the prime tires for a low fuel run. I believe I was set for 10 or 15 kilos of fuel. Not too much. You can see just locking my front tires straight away. Just they're cold. Obviously, the circuit's probably cold with these overcast conditions and the moisture in the air. You can see I'm being very careful in the throttle coming out of that corner there. And they're saying light rain should arrive very shortly, which is interesting because it is raining at this very moment. So I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about there. But Kimi is in front of us. He went by us when we locked up in turn 2, I believe it is there. Let me just double check on that. Yeah, that's at turn 2. So Kimi went by us, and you can see just understeering my way right through turn 8 there. And then dropping it down to second gear for turn 9. It's obviously been a very long time since I've driven this circuit. I like to include this part in the videos just so you guys can sort of see my progression. I know a lot of people watch career videos and they're looking for tips. I watch career videos and I'm looking for tips. You know, I watch X-Matty G's career videos. I watch Alex Gillen's career videos. I watch Ereva's, Noble 2909's, TRL Limitless. If there's a career mode, chances are I probably watch it. And so I try to pick things up from watching their races and stuff, whether it's setup tips or just braking, where to brake for a corner. Because again, it's been a very long time since I've driven a Formula 1 game prior to this series. Obviously, this game's only been out for less than 2 weeks, so I still don't have the greatest of confidence in myself at this stage. So I've got the DRS open. You can see that in the rearview mirror, and I've actually closed it because I've decided I'm going to do sort of like some race simulation stuff. And I've carried a little bit too much speed into turn 1 there, as we've got a Force India just ahead of us, and he's going through turn 3 now. And we're actually closing up on him pretty significantly. There's not too much dirty air coming through that corner on account of how low speed it is. So I really didn't lose too much time, but I probably need to give a gap or let him through. But it's pretty obvious at this stage. I apologize for continually. I got something in my throat, and it's causing me issues today. But I'm not really looking. I'm not chasing lap times right now. I'm really just looking to get comfortable with the circuit, and I'm also looking to find the crossover point between slick tires and intermediate tires. So if it's going to continue raining, then this is going to be intermediate conditions pretty soon here. So actually, I'm looking to find that changeover point, that crossover point between the slick tires and the intermediate tires, as I've actually got one of the Williams cars behind me now as well harassing me. So I imagine I'll probably be letting him through, because once again, remember, I will not be using DRS because I'm trying to find what sort of lap time this tire would give with this fuel load in the race. And obviously, it's very rare to get DRS in the race. So we're just going to let this Williams by, but already very encouraging stuff there as far as the straight line speed. You can see that Williams had his DRS wide open, and it took him quite a while to get by me, in fact, and I was reaching speeds over 340 kilometers per hour, and that's with the DRS closed. Oh, and I've had a big moment at the exit of the final corner, and that's really going to hurt me. Thankfully, I don't think I got any damage there. I didn't lose any bits of wing or anything like that, so I went ahead and just continued on. And we're having a look now at my lap times. So I had a slow lap, obviously, because of that spin at the final corner. Then I did a quick lap of a 146.8. Then it became wet conditions. So I threw on a set of the intermediate tires, and I'm just kind of looking over the race pace of those intermediate tires. And it looks like it was about a minute 50, a minute 51 was the sort of pace that I was getting. This is still FP1. It has stopped raining now, and we are going to be changing our setup by the looks of it. Yep, so it looks like I did increase that off-throttle setting. It was at 80% before. It's now at 85%. No other changes to the suspension geometry. And then also I've increased the stiffness of the front suspension up to 6. Originally I had it at 1. You guys saw that before. I was at 1-1 suspension. I'm now at 6-1 suspension to give myself a little bit of turn in, but I'm not looking to do 11-1. The ballast is still set completely forward. We've got 10 kilos of fuel. I'm going to save that shiner dry setup. As Jeff's telling us that we got 30 minutes left in this FP1 session, and it does look like we're going to be going out on track on the option tires. I did some checking in previous races, and I found out that you lose a set of option and a set of prime tires after FP1, whether you run them or not. So there's no reason not to run the option tires, and we can see there I'm in 12th position at the moment in the time standings, just ahead of the Caterham actually. But again, remember, I'm really not chasing lap time at this stage of the weekend. Really, FP3 is when I start chasing lap times. You can see there are a couple of exceeding track limits warnings for myself there, but no other issues with any of the drivers. And once again, just having a look at the lap times here, and you can see it was the primes, and then it was the intermediates, and then it was the options, I believe. So we did get down into the 141s, so 141.4 being my fastest lap time so far of the session, a total of 18 laps completed, including out laps. So I think it's more like 15 full laps completed. But we are on a set of the option tires right now. We're fast forwarding through the... nope, this is the end of the session. We're just going to fast forward through. So we are in 12th. We were supposed to be in 9th, and it actually, it looks like I believe that was Bottas in 9th position. Yeah, it sure is. It looks like he was about 7/10 quicker than us, actually. Nico Rosberg doing a 136.8 on the options. That's crazy. Lewis Hamilton nearly beating Daniel Ricciardo, and Ricciardo on the options, and Hamilton on the primes there, so that's pretty surprising to see. As we see the kind of back markers down at the bottom of the grid. Pastor Maldonado being the slowest of the option runners. He was actually only about 3/10 slower than me, though. So you can see I'm quite a ways off the pace, but also I was 8th fastest in the session at one point. And then, I started doing high fuel runs, and the AI just kept doing low fuel runs. They kept just chasing lap times. And that pushed me down the order, and I'm not going to change what I'm going to do just so that I can be higher up at the end of a free practice session. So here we are in FP2, and look what's happened. There are more issues with the AI getting punctures, as we see Hülkenberg coming out of the pits. Maldonado has no puncture. Chilton has a front left puncture and possibly a rear left puncture as well, based on how severely his car is leaning to the left-hand side. So not all of the cars having punctures, but certainly a couple of them having punctures. As again, we're having a look at Chilton here as he's making his way through Sector 2. Maldonado seems fine. Rosberg riding just behind Sergio Perez, who has a front left puncture. The other Lotus of Romain Grosjean has a front left puncture as well, as he's heading down the pit back straight. Jenson Button is into the pits. He seemed like his tires were fine. Bottas has a puncture on his front left, and just kind of flipping through everybody and just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And I did actually tweet the new community manager at Codemasters for the F1 games is Literal Zero, his Twitter handle at Literal Zero. I did tweet him and the official Formula One game Twitter account about this issue. I assumed, or I hoped in Bahrain that was just going to be a one-off thing where they were getting those punctures, because it didn't happen in Malaysia or Australia, at least not as far as I could tell. But we can see here Esteban Gutierrez trying to steer clear of Romain Grosjean. Valtteri Bottas into the pits now. Nico Rosberg and Felipe Massa and Marcus Ericsson and Nico Hülkenberg and Daniel Ricciardo all seem to be fine. But then we have that whole group of cars that are not fine, very clearly not fine, as Nico Rosberg flying up onto the back of a very slow-moving car there. Nico Hülkenberg as well. The Nicos just navigating their way around the circuit, trying to dodge all of these very, very slow cars. And Romain Grosjean made it back to the pits, and Nico Rosberg has slammed into the back of Daniel Ricciardo. I do believe that is at the entrance for Turn 8, or the exit of Turn 7 is where that happened. And Nico Rosberg has lost his entire front wing, so Nico Rosberg being affected by these issues that the AI are having, even though he himself did not have a puncture. So very, very strange stuff that we're seeing here in FP2. And again, last time in Bahrain, it was FP2 and FP3 where the AI was having issues. And here we are once again in an FP2 session. And once again, the AI coming out of the pits with flat tires. Not all of them, not every single one of them, but definitely with punctures coming out of the pits. So here we're going to see a little incident of something that happened between myself and I believe Marcus Ericsson, as he was going very, very slow through turn 10, and I ended up colliding into the back of him and losing my entire front wing. Obviously not intentional, but you can see I was carrying quite a bit more speed than he was, and just he stayed on the racing line. And that really caught me off guard. I thought he was going to stay to the right-hand side, or I thought he was going to move out of the way to the left a bit faster. I don't know. I can't explain that myself. That's really just my own issue. I should have expected him to do exactly what he did. And here we are, and we're seeing there are tons of penalties. Thankfully, I was not one of those penalties, which is exactly why I was bringing that up. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get a penalty for running into this idiot who just sat on the racing line going 5 miles an hour in wet conditions. I mean, you could easily argue that I'm the idiot for running into the back of him, but obviously he really should not be on the racing line if he's moving that slowly, especially out of, because you really can't see turn 10 all that well. I didn't have all that much time to react. But we're going to have another look-see at the penalties. So Daniel Ricciardo with a grid penalty, Kevin Magnussen with a grid penalty, a couple others with a grid penalty. We will see the full list of grid penalties a bit later on, and I think we're actually going to see that now. You can see at the moment I am fastest in the session, but I don't think anybody else has even completed a lap yet, so that means literally nothing. So Ricciardo penalty, Magnussen grid penalty, Hülkenberg grid penalty, Grosjean grid penalty, Jev with a grid penalty, Ericsson grid penalty, my teammate Kimi Räikkönen grid penalty, Nico Rosberg, Nico Hülkenberg, and Adrian Sutil, all 3 of the Germans with grid penalties. In fact, Hülkenberg's got 2 penalties. One for a collision with Rosberg, and then it went away too quickly for me to see it. But you can see I did some running in FP2 despite the conditions and despite the ridiculous AI running around. You can see I ran a nice stint on the intermediate tires, I believe this was. I don't know why I'm switching back and forth. Oh, right. I'm reminding myself, actually, that was the cutoff point. So 145 to 149 was what I was looking at there. So it looks like once you start going above like 145 on the slick tires is really when you want to be switching to the intermediate tires. So again, just having a look down the list, Daniel Ricciardo has done 0 laps. Many of the drivers having done only 1 lap, as you can see. We've done 14 laps. Kvyat's also done 14 laps. Ericsson's done 16 laps. And we're going to skip to the end of the session now. You can see my best time was a 141.582 on the prime tires, which again was fastest of the session, but means literally nothing. I have no idea what the pace of other people is looking like. We can see, though, that Kimi was able to set a 148.2 on intermediate tires, which is a couple seconds faster than what I was doing, but that could be fuel load that's making that sort of difference. And again, just taking a look at the list of penalties. Again, Hülkenberg, a collision with Kobayashi and also a collision with Rosberg. Rosberg also receiving a grid penalty for the collision with Hülkenberg. So the Nicos coming together and both of them receiving grid penalties as a result of it. That's very strange. I don't know why both of them would be given grid penalties for that. But we are going to be moving on to the next session now. It's FP3. It does look like it's dry at the moment. I don't see any drops falling from the garage or anything like that, so it does appear to be a dry session. I imagine we'll be going out on a set of the prime tires first, and it looks like we certainly are. I haven't made any changes to the setup there, as you can see as I'm flipping through it. Setup is pretty much the same as the last time I showed you. In fact, I think it's exactly the same as the last time.
The track is green right now, so take a few laps to get the tires up to temperature. Try and feel your way around.
And obviously in real F1, the rain washes away the rubber and it makes the track less grippy when it finally does dry out. So if this was real life, the track would be, I mean, almost like brand new again, like FP1. But here we are starting a flying lap now. I imagine I am in rich mix. Nope, now I'm in rich mix. Breaking down into 4th gear for the final corner. I will say the final corner, I believe, is my weakest corner on this circuit. I just never feel comfortable going through there. as we feed the car to the left-hand side for the start of the lap. And we can see there is our teammate Kimi Räikkönen going very slowly. He has come out of the pits with a puncture, and we're in third gear, down into second gear. And with the liftoff, with the drivetrain settings that I had, with the high liftoff setting, that does give us quite a bit of turn-in, actually. If you pay close attention to the angle of my front wing as I'm going through turns 1 and 2, you'll see as I downshift, the car just turns in fantastically. And I gotta say, I'm really, really liking the liftoff setting that I chose. The differential, the liftoff diff coast, whatever. I am so terrible with that stuff. Words cannot even begin to describe. So this is a fast lap for us, but as you've seen, we are navigating all of these cars. I believe I've got 10 or 15 kilos on board, so this is a low fuel run, even though it is on the prime tires. It's a brand new set of prime tires, but of course it's raining. It's getting wetter and wetter. I can tell you it rained in FP1, FP2, and FP3. So at this point, I'm certainly thinking that it's very likely to rain in the race or qualifying or both, as we see a Williams going very slow with the puncture down the back straight, and we get nicely out of the way of him, getting pretty close to him, but braking just before the 100-meter board.
Stay with us for at least 20 minutes, maybe more. Light rain is here to stay.
So light rain is here to stay, says Jeff, and it looks like we're going to be switching onto the intermediate tires. But once again, I'm feeling the need to test this car out in the changing conditions and just sort of prepare myself as best as I can, not just for qualifying, but also for the race.
Fastest in this session so far.
Yep, yeah, we're fastest in a session full of people that have tire punctures, and we haven't carried enough speed there. I was a bit too, as we're just going to shoot up the inside of that Lotus. Once again, though, I don't know what that guy's doing on the racing line going that slow. As we see, actually, there's a couple cars ahead of us. It looks like they're going side by side with punctures, possibly. And now there's a third car involved, and the Red Bull has made contact with the Marussia and just spun him right around. And the Red Bull, just not caring whatsoever, is just going to continue on right behind us. So the Red Bull, it appears, did not have a puncture. He was just being held up by the Caterham and the Marussia ahead of him. And in fact, no, the Caterham doesn't even have a puncture, as there is a piece of debris going through turn 8 there. And we're going 3 wide into turn 9 there, and I've got the inside line, so I'm going to make the move on both those cars. And then we've got a Toro Rosso in the way going very slowly. We go around the outside of him, and then we go past the Red Bull, then the Mercedes. We can see there's another Marussia just ahead of us going through turn 11 and now heading into turn 12, and we're going to have to go around the outside of him because once again just sat on the racing line. There's my teammate Kimi, also sat on the racing line and throwing up tons of sparks and smoke in my face as well. Tons of debris all over the circuit. Some sort of major incident has happened at the exit of turn 13 there, as we've got the DRS wide open now, and it looks like whatever our last time was 142.4, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to beat that with all of the cars. All of these mobile chicanes that we're having to navigate is certainly not helping our lap times, having to go around people. And actually we were actually in lean mix for that lap. We're up into rich now. Yep, so 5 kilos. So this is going to be a flying lap, and I'm going to try the best I can. But once again, we have a car coming out of the pits just in front of us. It does appear to be the Sauber of Esteban Gutierrez. I believe that was his trademark yellow helmet that I saw in the car, as we had to go once again around him through turns 1 and 2, which is certainly not optimal, but thankfully he didn't make it too hard. Tons of wheel spin there coming out of the exit of turn 4, which is to be expected, especially in these very wet conditions, or these more and more wet conditions, just getting wetter and wetter as the seconds tick by. Down into second gear for that turn 6 hairpin, up through the gears. You got to be very careful on the throttle as you're coming out of that hairpin in second gear. Lots of torque in these cars. A nice big lift in the middle of turn 7 there in order to hug that apex, and dipping down into fourth gear for turn 8, and then once again second gear for turn 9, and then quickly up in the third, and then fourth gear, full throttle at the exit with little bit of wheel spin. That is a common issue actually that I've noticed, even on the soft tires. Quite a bit of wheel spin as you're coming through turn 10 there, onto that short run down towards turn 11 before the DRS detection zone. So that's something I'm going to need to be mindful of, especially when there's dirty air. And we've got 2 cars that have collided. It looked like a Lotus and a McLaren have collided at the exit of turn 13, and we have yet another very slow car. That is another Marussia, or one of the other Marussias that we already saw before, trying to make his way back to the pits. Again, braking fairly late. A little bit of a lockup. I will say I am feeling pretty confident on the brakes at this circuit. When I do lock up, I still manage to make the corner pretty well. As we go through the final corner there, DRS open, staying to the right-hand side for the shortest run to the line, and it's 0.8 slower than whatever we did before. But as I mentioned, of course, the session getting wetter and wetter, so the times being slower is to be expected. Currently on 11th, and look at all the grid penalties. Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Rosberg, Grosjean, Raikkonen again, Ericsson, Magnussen, and Grosjean again. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And again, I have mentioned on Twitter to some people at Codemasters about this bug, and I'll probably be linking them these videos if I don't see an update for this soon. I have heard that other people are having the same problem actually as well, and it's not even on PC. It sounds like it's an issue with Pro Season mode, and not just with Bahrain, as we found out here today. So that is the end of FP3. The practice sessions are over. We were only in 12th position with 142.4, but again, that was on the prime tires, and it was pretty wet out. So really, again, I'm not concerned too much with the times, but look how many drivers didn't even set a time. Rosberg, Maldonado, Ericsson, Grosjean, Gutierrez, Kvyat, Hulkenberg, and Sutil not even setting times in the session, and one of them actually getting a DNF.
It's Saturday afternoon here in Shanghai as the cars are preparing to go out on track to begin qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix. Ferrari and McLaren have enjoyed lots of success here in Shanghai, Ferrari having won 4 times and McLaren 3 times, and that's quite a success rate considering the first race was only back in 2004.
Well, going off past history, I would expect Fernando and Lewis to do well, having both won here multiple times before. You have to imagine they'll be in the mix at least for a podium finish.
Really? So they're hyping me up to get a podium finish.
Hard in this session. We should have the pace to qualify easily.
Like, do they not know that I've only finished 2 out of 3 races so far, and I've only scored points in 1 of those 2, and that I dropped 4 positions in that race from my starting position? So obviously they're just basing it on Fernando Alonso, the person, and not me, the Fernando Alonso, who is portraying Fernando Alonso. So here we are in Q1. As with the previous weekends, I am going to be attempting to make it into Q2 with the prime tires. Once again, just having a little flick through the setup so you guys can see what changes were made, if any, and I don't believe there were any made. Taking some fuel out of the car, I went ahead and did 5 kilos. So I'm going to go out, I'm going to do an out lap in lean, I'm going to get the tires up to temperature, and then I'm going to do a fast lap in rich. And I can tell you guys actually before I start this lap that I did some testing with consecutive laps in rich mix, and I found no drop in pace. No drop in pace whatsoever. So this whole business about engines overheating, I'm not convinced that's true. I know people will say, yeah, you lose performance from an overheating engine. Yeah, in real life. I'm not so sure about that actually in this Codemasters F1 game. Again, maybe that's a bug. I'm not really sure. I ran multiple laps in a row in rich mix consecutively, like 4 or 5 laps at high fuel, 100 kilos on board, stayed in rich mix for 4 or 5 laps straight and found no drop off in the time. In fact, I got a little bit quicker as the fuel burned off, even though my tires were wearing. I got a little bit quicker on the straights. So I don't know if it's specifically when you're running behind another car, maybe. You know, if the clear air that you get. I don't know if the clear air that you get, maybe in a qualifying or practice session, maybe that's sufficient cooling to run your engine in rich mix for the entire time. Maybe somebody can prove me wrong and show that I'm a total idiot there. But that's lots of oversteer actually through turn 9 there. You can see it is wet. It is currently drizzling a little bit here in Shanghai for Q1 for my lap. But obviously I want to put in a lap before the rain gets even worse. You don't want to count on it being dry later on in the session. So I am going to be pushing very hard here just in case. But I don't want to be making any mistakes either. It's very, very important that I set a clean, representative lap time here before it becomes intermediate conditions. It's going to be very crucial as we're reaching speeds of nearly 350 kilometers per hour with the DRS open, and that's on the prime tires. Fantastic stuff to see. I love how long the straight here is in Shanghai. And up through the gears now into 6th, back down to 4th for the final corner, taking a little bit of the entrance inside curb and a little bit of the outside curb as well. And it does look like it's a 141.9. It was fast enough for P2, but then someone crossed the line right behind me, and they went even faster than me, so that dropped me down to P3. Remember, I just need to finish in the top 16 drivers to make it into Q2, so I'm feeling pretty comfortable considering Ericsson in 12th there is down in with a 143.5.
Higher than expectations. Great job.
A solid 2 seconds slower than me, Ericsson was there, and actually I think he just improved his time. But as we can see, there's only 7.5 minutes remaining in the session. Ricardo, Perez, Verne, Hamilton, and Sutil have not even gone out yet. It does look like Ricardo, Perez, and Verne are actually out at the moment. You can tell based on the icons next to their name. And there goes Hamilton and Sutil. They're out on track now. You can tell because of the green dot next to their name. It does mean an in-lap, but now it's got, yeah, they've got the yellow triangle next to them. So all of those drivers, Ricardo, Perez, Verne, Hamilton, Sutil, they all went out on track and then came straight back into the pits. They haven't even set a lap time yet. You can see there's only 2 minutes left. They're still in the garage. It's now too late. Even if they came out of the garage right now, there's not enough time to get around and start a lap. So all 5 of those drivers are not even going to bother setting a lap time.
And the big shock of today's qualifying is that Lewis Hamilton has been unable to get into Q2. That means he's going to start near the back of the grid for tomorrow's race. So we can expect some early overtaking moves from the British driver.
I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to begin. So as you can see, the times are all over the place. Kvyat in the Toro Rosso is up. I mean, even Kobayashi is up ahead of me, and that's because of the changing conditions. But as I mentioned, there it is. Daniel Ricciardo going to be starting this race from 18th position. Lewis Hamilton starting the Chinese Grand Prix from 21st position. 21st. He didn't even bother trying to set a lap time. That's gotta be a glitch. There's no way. So yeah, I really don't know what's going on there. You can see no incidents there, no collisions, no penalties being handed out, but a handful of drivers not even bothering to go out. Very, very strange scenes here in Shanghai. Not sure what that's all about, but we did make it through to Q2. We didn't have to use a set of the option tires, so far it's looking pretty good. Here we are in Q2, and you can see that it's raining. And you can see that I had the intermediate tires on, and I'm putting on a set of the softs. And you might be saying to yourself, that's crazy. What are you doing? And the reason is I actually, I listened to what they said. I went out there with intermediates on, and everybody else was out there on softs. So I was like, you know, thanks, Jeff. That's great. Way to put me on the intermediate tire when literally nobody else is going on that tire.
Looks like track conditions are starting to improve.
And he's saying lap times are dropping. We're 30 seconds into the session, Jeff. No one's even set a lap time. You can't drop from 0 to 0. That's not a drop. That's the same time. My God, Jeff. I think he's drunk this weekend. I don't know what's going on with Jeff. So here we are on the option tires. It's raining pretty hard, but I have to assume that it's going to get worse. And I really need to set a lap time here on the option tires. I don't know if it's going to stop raining. I don't know if it's going to dry out. I don't know if it's going to get wetter. I just have to do my best. You can see I've got a Toro Rosso just ahead of me. I drop it down into second gear, and just tons of turn-in kicks in, and just the car grips up so nicely. I love it. If that sounds like something you would want, I would highly recommend that you guys set that off-throttle differential setting pretty high. Like I said, I had it at 85%, and that was feeling very good. It gave me much better turn-in for the corners. And then I had the on-throttle differential set quite low, and that was for better stability out of the low-speed corners. So we're going through turn 7 and 8 there. Lots of understeer through turn 7 to kind of compromise my entrance for turn 8, but I just dropped it down into 4th gear and just hugged that inside line. Running a little bit wide through turn 9 there, and getting a little bit of a dirty air effect from the Toro Rosso there. As you can see, I'm squirming at the exit of turn 10. Short run down to turn 11, breaking down to 2nd gear. Take lots of that inside curb as much as you possibly can to straighten up the run through turn 12. Being very careful on the throttle here. You can see short shifting through the gears as much as I possibly can in order to avoid wheel spin wherever possible. And I do believe we are actually gaining time here. Look at that, 315 kilometers per hour before we've even opened up the DRS. 345, 350, 353, 353 kilometers per hour, braking around the 100-meter board. Very late braking there. Lots of wheel spin at the exit of that turn 14 hairpin, and I'm still behind this Toro Rosso. I've definitely gained time on him, so at the very least, I think my lap time will be faster than his. DRS open, staying to the right-hand side for the shortest run to the line. It's a 142. 142.599 to 42.6 basically, and you can see I have dropped right down the order. I am now in P15 with that time, but also as you can see the track is dry now. We're right at the end of the session. There's only 52 seconds remaining in the session. DRS open, staying to the left hand side to shorten the run down towards turn 1, and in 8th gear, breaking down into 5th, then quickly into 4th, hugging the inside and then letting it run out wide a little bit. I slowed it down a little bit too much there. I didn't want to be that close to the inside curb there. Feeding it nicely through turn 3, getting on the throttle as best I can. Not too much wheel spin there, using lots of that exit curb. Up into 6th gear, now 7th gear, approaching nearly 300 kilometers per hour, braking right around where the curbing starts on the left-hand side, down into 2nd gear. Again, wheel spin in 2nd gear. Very difficult to get the power down in those low-speed corners. And I believe a lift. Yep, a lift there. Nearly went into 7th gear as we were entering turn 7, but opting to stay into 6th gear, and then again lifting and then using 4th gear for turn 8, down into 2nd gear for turn 9, avoiding the curb as much as I can, up into 3rd and 4th, a bit of wheel spin at the exit of turn 10, 5th gear, 6th gear, 7th gear, braking just after the 100 meter board. In fact, I'd say around 75 meters, down into 2nd gear once again, a little twitch from the car in the change of direction between turns 11 and 12, and then once again trying desperately to get the throttle down, to get the power down to the rear end of this car and maximize my run down this straight. 300 kilometers per hour, DRS open now in 8th gear, 340 kilometers per hour. I love the top speed stuff. So you can see 347 kilometers per hour. So we actually gained 6 kilometers per hour by being in the slipstream of that Toro Rosso before. Obviously, this is going to be a way faster lap on account of the dry track and the much better conditions. 4th gear through the final corner, a little bit of a wiggle, DRS open as we cross the line. It does look like it's enough for P4. It was a 139.8. Much, very, very quick time. That's the end
of qualifying 2, and now it will all come down to the top 10 shootout to see who will be on pole for tomorrow's race.
That's a very quick time for me personally. I have yet to dip into the 139 so far this weekend, and I gotta say, I was beginning to get a little bit worried. And this was a huge morale booster to get that 139.8 right at the end of that session, out-qualifying Kimi, who was on the prime tires, though. Kudos to Kimi and Vettel for making it into Q3 on a set of prime tires. That is incredible to see. And we can see Ericsson will be starting the race from 16th, Maldonado 15th. Of course, this is all before penalties are taken into effect, so really these starting positions mean nothing. Having a quick look at the penalties, there are none in this session, thankfully, and we're going to be going on to Q3 now and hoping to qualify as high as we can, really just hoping to out-qualify our teammate Kimi Räikkönen. That is the main goal.
Our radar is showing that the light rain could be with us in as soon as 15 minutes' time.
So light rain in as soon as 15 minutes time. Obviously, Q3 is only 12 minutes long, so I'm not entirely sure if the rain's going to come at all, but I have to assume once again that it is going to be rainy, and you can see this is our outlap actually, but we're going to be getting past this Toro Rosso because I don't want to be dealing with the dirty air from the Toro Rosso like I had to in Q2. Getting the power down pretty nicely there. I'm already in rich mix. I did that on the DRS straight. Down into 4th gear, taking lots of that inside curb, just a little of the outside curb, DRS open, over to the left-hand side now as we cross the line, approaching 300 kilometers per hour, over 300 kilometers per hour, about 330 just about kilometers per hour as we head into turn 1, 5th gear, 4th gear now, 3rd gear, car turns in, down to 2nd gear, it really grips up, taking that turn very nicely, actually. I think that's the best I've taken that series of corners so far of the entire weekend, very nicely on the throttle as well. Lots of traction coming out of turns 3 and 4. Shut your mouth, Jeff. Shut your mouth, Jeff. You don't talk to me when I'm talking, Jeff. Nicely through the turn 6 hairpin there in 2nd gear, as I've been mentioning all video long so far. Staying in 6th gear once again, opting not to go up to 7th gear. A nice big lift because of the 1-1 wings that I've been running all weekend long. You need a nice big lift through that turn 7 corner. Staying in 3rd gear this time for turns 9 and 10 to try and get as much traction as I can. And it does appear to have worked out quite well. Really didn't have too much of the oversteer issues that I had previously. Locking the front wheels ever so slightly. You could hear the tires squealing, but they weren't really locked up in the traditional sense. So really on the limit for the braking for turn 11 there, and then accelerating through turns 12 and 13, picking up a little bit of a slipstream right now, I think, 316 kilometers per hour about as we open up the DRS, and let's see what the top speed is going to be as we head into this hairpin, about 350 kilometers per hour. So I do believe we picked up a little bit of a slipstream from that McLaren up ahead. Not going to be getting any dirty air effect really through that hairpin because of the low speeds. Once again, up through the gears, down to fourth for this final corner. Somebody's taking out that bollard using a little bit of the inside curb and the outside curb as we cross the line. It is a 139.0, 8 tenths faster than my previous best. It feels so good. Oh man, it just, you know, stuff like that reminds me why I got into the F1 Codemasters games in the first place. It's just, or even just sim racing in general, if you want to call this a sim. We won't go there today. That's a discussion for another day. But it just felt so nice. So I had 2 sets of option tires to use for this session. And I wanted to give it until the end of the session, and then I was hoping to go back out and put in another very quick lap time with a little bit more rubber on the circuit and see if maybe I could improve myself. I think there was 1 or 2 issues I had. Yeah, the lockup into turn 11, I wasn't sure if that lost me any time, and I really would like to try and get into the 138s if possible, even if only to kind of prove it to myself that I'm capable of doing that. Currently, we're second fastest in this session. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton getting knocked out in Q1, so safe to assume that Nico Rosberg is the car that's ahead of me in P1 at the moment. A little bit of a lockup, actually, heading into turn 8 as we were dropping down to 4th gear, running quite wide in 3rd gear at the exit of turn 9 there. But again, a nice bit of traction as we come onto this nice short straight down towards turn 11, avoiding any sort of lockups there into turn 11. Nicely on the throttle now in 2nd gear, up into 3rd quickly, into 4th. I'm surprised I didn't short shift that a little bit better, actually. Up into 6th gear now as the car finally straightens out as we get onto this very long DRS straight. Again, in 8th gear, DRS open. And in these conditions, you've got to say it would be very, very difficult to try and improve on that very quick lap time that I set earlier in the session. You can hear once again the tires squealing, and I've gone very wide, and that's tons of wheel spin at the exit of that turn 14 hairpin. And almost certainly this is not going to be a faster lap time as I go through the final corner. DRS is open, and we're going to find out just how much slower it was. Looks like about 1.2 seconds slower than my previous best. And Fernando looks happy, though. So I think P2 is looking pretty good.
Today was Nico Rosberg's day after a frantic final few minutes in qualifying. It was he who came out on top.
They've really worked hard this weekend, and it seems they've been able to set up the cars perfectly today. Whether this will translate into race pace tomorrow, well, we'll just have to wait and see.
And that 139.0 was crucial. Very important that I pick up that time in that session, because as you can see, the Red Bull of Sebastian Vettel and both Williams cars are very close behind me, just less than 3 tenths behind me. So that was very important, and it felt great to put in my personal best lap time around this circuit in Q3 when it matters most. I was very happy about that. So we will be starting this race from 2nd position, but once again, as we've seen before, Nico Rosberg picked up some grid penalties during FP2 and FP3. So obviously, this grid is still to be determined, and I can tell you right now, after I finish talking, I am going to be showing the grid after the penalties. That was asked for last time out in Bahrain, so I will be showing that. So after I finish talking, make sure to stick around for just a few more seconds, and you can see exactly where the drivers will be starting for the race for the Chinese Grand Prix coming up very soon. So that is going to do it for me. Again, my talking bit is over, and I thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm feeling really good about this race with the low downforce setup. We're starting from at least 2nd, maybe 1st, depending on the penalties from Nico Rosberg, and I'm feeling pretty good. Thanks again for joining me, guys. I will see you next time out for the Chinese Grand Prix.